On the phone with us is Congressman Jeff Miller. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
It is Miller time. Good to have you along. All the eyes of the world will be watching today to see if the top kill method from BP is going to actually work. And there was at one time, Congressman, where they said, well, we're not going to show this. And so now they are going to be showing this.
Well, I think it's important that they show it. I don't know what folks are going to see other than hopefully a slowing down of the flow of oil coming into the Gulf itself. But, you know, all eyes are on BP and the federal government this morning as we hopefully will see what should be the beginning of the end of this disaster.
Well, there's been so many questions that have risen about the transparency and about them being honest about what exactly went on. Do you think, and I've heard this over and over and over again, that this is President Obama's Katrina?
Well, I'm not going to call it President Obama's Katrina. It sure could be. I don't think they've handled it well at all. I've said from the very beginning, you know, that there'll be time for finger pointing, but I think 36, 37 days later, you know, BP has done a lot. The question is, you know, for them, why did it happen in the first place? Number two, I think the response, other than the Coast Guard, I will say, I mean, I think the Coast Guard has done their job, but I have no faith and confidence of Janet Napolitano as the Secretary of Homeland Defense. And, you know, this is the person that's responsible for you know, this. She is the overarching agency that's in charge of this response. Now, the incident command is the Coast Guard, which falls under her.
It seems odd. I guess it's just a sort of the way the administrative setup is, but it does seem odd that there wouldn't be a separate agency or something that would be responsible.
Well, you know, and interestingly enough, I mean, you got Interior, which is Mineral Management,
right,
which are the ones that lease the subsurface rights. But, you know, ultimately, it goes all the way to the top, regardless of which agency is responsible. It is the administration.
Well, sure.
And again, I mean, you know, now the president's deciding that he's going to peel off from his Memorial Day break and go to Louisiana and then jet back to Chicago, which, by the way, he will not be appearing at Arlington Cemetery for Memorial Day, which I think is abhorrent, as I think jetting out to California last night for a fundraiser for Barbara Boxer was as well. And then you got the EPA administrator we had to pressure her to pull out of a fundraiser in New York for the Democratic Senatorial Committee.
Well, there's one thing I do want to bring up. I learned of this yesterday, that President Obama will not be at Arlington National Cemetery, that he's sending Vice President Biden.
That's the last person you want. This is the guy who either yesterday or day before yesterday said that the United States had not earned its place basically in the world, that Brussels deserved to be the center of the world structure. And I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, on top of that, we're looking at increasing tensions in both the Koreas. That's a worry. It's affecting financial markets in addition to the financial woes of Greece, Spain, Portugal, etc. So it looks like things are a little on the tense side all around the world.
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch how the administration, and I will say that Secretary Clinton continues to work her way through the process as far as diplomacy, and hopefully our allies will come behind strongly, and we will put strong sanctions, continually strong sanctions on North Korea and Iran. But, you know, it's very apparent from everything that folks have seen that, yes, North Korea did, in fact, use a torpedo to sink that South Korean ship.
Well, I'm concerned, as we all are, of course, that desperate people may take desperate actions. If you can call Kim Jong-il desperate from that standpoint, certainly.
He's desperate. He's done. You're absolutely right. I mean, you know, remember, I got a chance to go there probably 6 years ago, and even at that point, his regime was in desperate straits because they're out of money. That's why you don't want them to have a nuclear capability, because they would sell that technology to anybody, and they'd be willing to sell their souls to get a buck to continue to run their government regime.
Well, I want to go back to BP for a second, because there's been something like 17,000 ideas about how to clean up this oil spill, and there has been one, and that was brought up by the former president, I should say, of Shell, and he was talking about years and years ago they used these super tankers to scoop up the oil. Why not that idea?
I can't answer the question. They are, of course, using skimmers now, dispersant, which obviously nobody's sure of the potential harmful impacts of what's going on. That's why I was hoping that EPA would approve the use of less dispersant below the surface. I'm talking tens of thousands of gallons less than what they would have to use on top of the surface. But I think every single avenue needs to be looked at: burning, skimming, booming, whatever they've got. But as you look over to Louisiana and you look around Plaquemines Parish and that part of the country, those folks are seeing their way of life just destroyed.
And I think probably maybe even just destroyed forever. How are you going to get the oil that's, a mile into those marshes? How are you going to clean that up? There's no way you can possibly ever clean that up.
Well, and that's why the governor, Bobby Jindal, is trying so hard to get the federal government to understand that the only way to stop it is to build a continuous berm.
And let me ask you this, Congressman. Why is it they're waiting on a permit? Why can't the state just go ahead and do that?
Well, I know Bobby well, and they probably will. It's just one of those things that, he has waited and tried to use the normal process, and it's failing them. And you can hear the frustration in his voice as he's trying to help the people that he was elected to serve as governor. They turn to him and say, "Why can't you help?" And, you can only turn and say, "We're being blocked by the federal government." You watch. I bet you'll see a dredge in there very soon.
Well, the whole thing, as we keep overusing the term unprecedented disaster, et cetera, the whole thing just continues, and it is beyond the scope of most of our comprehension. I saw one of those aerial shots of that partial picture of the enormous oil spill, and right in the middle was this little dot. It was a 150-foot ship with a smaller chaser boat beside it dragging a boom, and you could barely see it in the midst of this vast sea of oil. Most of us on shore just don't have any idea of how big this thing is.
Well, and again, you talk about inside the Gulf of Mexico, which is a huge body of water into itself. But you look at that pipe that everybody has been watching, the continuous live feed, and hopefully at some point today you'll see that begin to slow. I don't know that the administration has a clue what they'll do if BP can't get it stopped with a top kill.
Well, I guess the next thing they were going to do was the junk shot.
Correct.
And from what I understand, that will be the next thing. But we don't know what they're going to try after that.
The last resort, which they're working on now, obviously, is to do the pressure relief well off to the side. And, I think
that's going to take months.
If that is the only thing that will guarantee the ability to shut a well off, any well that's ever drilled at that depth anywhere within federal waters controlled by the United States needs to have a pressure relief well drilled at the same time so that we don't go through this again. I mean, you hear the acoustic valves, you hear these other type of valves that were supposed to be fail-safe. Everybody now is saying the only way for sure is to have that side well cut into it to permanently seal it off, and that is the only safety valve that everybody appears to agree that will work permanently.
Well, we're starting to see more and more information come out about BP and about the well and about minerals management, and now, I've heard that maybe BP should be charged with criminal negligence on those 11 souls that were lost.
Well, I am sure as they go through the process, and again, I mean, that's why, a lot of things running concurrent right now, but folks have said, there will be a time when people will be held to account, whether it's congressionally or from the administration or judicially. That, and again, I mean, the president was chastising the three companies that were being brought before Congress, but they're going to have to decide at some point between them and probably in the courts who's responsible. Right now, BP is the responsible party, and they are trying what they know to try to shut that thing off.
Well, here's another question I have for you, Congressman, because, you've got the way of life in Louisiana just virtually gone as far as fishing is concerned, shrimping, and all of that. I mean, this is for how many years to come that BP is going to have to pay for this?
Well, there's just no telling. I mean, not just that, but, the ancillary things, the housing industry, the marine industry, the banking industry.
Yeah, it's all a domino effect.
Oh, absolutely. The seafood industry, the restaurants. I mean, it is, the numbers have to be staggering when you think of, the potential losses that are going to be racked up because of this problem that BP has created.
Well, one more question I have for you, then we're going to let you run. BP had said we would like to hire vessels of opportunity, and they were protesting at the end of 3 Mile Bridge the other day here in Pensacola, going, hey, we're losing money. I mean, how come you're not hiring us? What's going on with that?
Well, I think part of what's happened, too, at least what some of the charter boat captains have said, look, it's the fishing boats and the charter fishermen that are suffering. Those are the ones that need to be hired, and there are pleasure craft that are being hired by folks that don't make their living in the business of fishing. Yeah, I understand it gives everybody the ability to make some money, but economically the guys that are being savaged right now are the fishermen that go out and make their living on the water every day. I was in Destin a couple weeks ago, and there were only 20 boats there that had been hired as vessels of opportunity, and there are hundreds of boats that were sitting idle at the dock.
Well, it's a mess that's not going to go away, very soon. I mean, we're going to be talking about this 5, 6, 7, even 10 years from now.
We're still talking about the Exxon Valdez.
Oh, yeah. Hello.
Decades.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I just wish that they would use, we've had so many phone calls. I got a way to stop it. I got a way to stop it. And I say, take everybody out there that has a way to stop it, take them out there on a boat and let them go at it.
Well, stopping the problem with stopping the thing is if you do it wrong, you exacerbate the problem. Folks have said, why not blow it up? Mm-hmm. Well, that would be nice if, in fact, when you blew it up, it sealed it off. But what happens if you blow it up
and more oil comes out?
It off?
Yeah, exactly.
Then you've got a worse mess on your hand. The problem that they're dealing with on this top kill is probably very similar to what happened with the original explosion. They've got to make sure that the pressure is just right in that wellhead, or else they've replicated another problem and haven't solved it, and they blow the pipe up.
Well, do you think our government has any expertise in this, in stopping this gusher of oil, or are we pretty much, relying on BP because this is what they do?
I believe that the government has no clue.
There you go.
As to how to stop it, and it's very apparent because if we did, we darn sure better be down there trying to stop it. And that's why the administration does not want to take control and move in. They want to leave BP, and they don't want the oil. The Obama administration doesn't want the oil on their hands because they have no clue as to the way to stop this thing at 5,000 feet below the surface. Remembering, our submarines will only go to 2,000 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a tremendous way down to the bottom of this Gulf floor.
Well, we could talk about this for another, 2 or 3 hours, I understand, but I know you're very busy, and we certainly appreciate your time.
Okay, guys, I appreciate it.
All right, Congressman Jeff Miller.